Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Level 1 News. What are we doing today? Government and security, and it is December 8th.
I see that the dog is back in the frame.
Yeah, she was about to knock over my iPad case, and I was like, don't you do it. The iPad's not in it right now, but she was like nosing at it. Oh, now she's licking her crotch, chat.
Yeah, that's what
We're
you do.
good, dog.
Yeah. It's Friday. Right?
It's
That's what you
Friday.
do, yeah.
Well, it's Tuesday for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, government security. I don't have the browser open. I'm not prepared.
No.
Oh,
All right.
yeah. All of this stuff this week is brought to you by Linode because they have really awesome hosting. One click, whatever you want. You want to do the, WordPress thing? You can totally do that.
Why do you always go with that example?
I don't know.
Yeah, why WordPress?
we did the WireGuard thing, or you did the WireGuard thing. It's really awesome. Now we also have a Minecraft server hosted on Linode. That was not the one-click installer because of the Grief plugin stuff.
But they do have one-click installer.
They do.
They do have a one-click
Now,
install.
we need to make a decision about that, actually. So it's been running since Wednesday.
Yes.
Wednesday, yeah.
We're averaging probably 3-4 players.
Yeah, it's not a lot. I think
Because-
I need to move it from the category it's in the forum.
Yeah, we put it in a somewhat protected category to try to balance the griefing and the fun.
Well, I can tell you that you had at least 30 people in the comments that tried one time to look for it, and then they just said, oh, I guess it's not up yet.
Right.
But as a result of doing this, we will get a lot. Because I did the same thing with the giveaway, and all of a sudden 300 people signed up.
But so it is in the. Well, are we going to move it? Like, we should probably decide.
Move the thread?
Because it's in
The
a.
thread-
You
it's
can't
in the
just
server.
register.
The link
and-
is in the description. There's no excuse for us not to do that in this episode, because it now exists.
Oh, so we are. You want to put the IP in this video?
The link to the thread in the description.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
But some people still don't have access to that, right?
No, they'll have access to it.
No, it's because it's in the server thread, and you have to be, I think, forum level
It's a
2.
trust level.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll fix that.
So we'll
Yeah,
move
I'll
on.
fix
All
that.
right.
Sorry. Anyway, that was a
everybody-
long discussion.
Everybody will have access. A couple of people have had 3 days by being forum members. I think that's fair.
I think that's fair, too.
Yeah. If you weren't already a forum member, why not?
And remember, we're giving stuff away at the end of December, depending on how impressive your stuff is. And Chris is the judge.
Yeah. All the information's in the thread about how we're going to do the judging and stuff, so.
Well, I mean, I can help judge, too, but I would defer to Krista because...
I think we should do some live streams and check it out live.
Well, there was, Wendell, there was talk of Minecraft on the stream.
Oh, yeah.
I know that you're not.
That's fine. I mean,
Most tolerant of
I would take
Minecraft.
one for the team for that. It's fine.
I'm not. I don't know what to do on a Minecraft stream. Like, Minecraft to me is a game where you just tune out, you put on a podcast, and you just, your brain takes a little vacation.
That's why I like it.
Yeah, but on a stream, how much fun is that to watch? That's the question.
Not at all.
It's true.
Anyway, speaking of the Level 1 Forum, the Level 1 Forum, among with millions and millions of other websites,
Also hosted on Linode.
might have a problem not related to Linode.
Oh,
If-
right.
If this were to come true, now we've done a lot of stories about this. There's been a lot of back and forth, but this is maybe the nastiest volley in this exchange because it's a very disgusting thing that happens a lot in U.S. politics.
Jump to Congress. Repeal Section 230 or I'll veto military funding. Basically, Section 230 is what shields online platforms from the stuff that their users post legally. So if somebody goes rogue and starts posting something, it's like, here's how you can download Minecraft for free. We can just block that content or take that content off, and we are not responsible for the actions of our users. Trump's main problem is that Twitter keeps labeling his tweets as incorrect or as being disputed,
Misleading.
and that is driving him insane.
Well, it's not just Twitter.
Yeah, it's not just Twitter.
A lot of different social media and news organizations are doing it.
I feel like we wouldn't be seeing this if Twitter wasn't doing that, though.
He does seem to focus on that one. Now, in Section 230, the big thing, they drilled down a little bit more. Ars Technica did a pretty good job. So when it comes to Trump's vision of this, it's kind of scorched earth. There are some other provisions that are a little less extreme, and probably the most likely one, I think, is one that removes language which says that otherwise objectionable content can fall under the things that you can get rid of. Lewd, obscene, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. Who gets to decide? Well, basically Twitter at this point. That's what Trump really, really hates.
It's also worth pointing out that in all of the rhetoric around this, it's like, oh, this is free pass for big businesses, blah blah blah. It's like, look, we're level one. We're scratching out a decent, thing here, but without Section 230, we literally could not do it. So I think it would disproportionately affect small businesses more than large businesses. This could turn into one of those monkey's paw things where, remember when Netflix was like, oh, net neutrality, blah, 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 and then Netflix realized, like, wait a minute, we can just pay our way out of this, and then it would actually be harder for competing companies to get, a level playing field. Okay, let's buy into the whole net neutrality thing.
Could be. Plus, Twitter probably not going to have to worry too much about this if they can just hold out for another month.
Yeah.
But who should be worrying, and increasingly worried, I would say, because this snowball just keeps gaining mass. And that is the big tech companies, specifically Google and Facebook, because they are the juiciest targets.
Facebook and Google to face new antitrust suits in the U.S. CEO Eric Schmidt sees antitrust law as a very blunt instrument. So this is talking mainly about Facebook and Google, but it's also talking about lawsuits that states are going to file. So Google's facing antitrust at the federal level, and New York is sort of spearheading this thing against Facebook to say that Facebook has behaved anti-competitively as well. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Now, I can't imagine what Google could have done to be labeled as such a monster. I mean, what kind of behavior would cause the government to come after you like this?
Oh, man. Google illegally spied on workers before firing them, U.S. Labor Board alleges. Company policies violated labor law, according to the complaint. We reported on this like 2 years ago, and we said, hey, that seems weird, because Google sent out a notice that said they were going to do something with your calendars, and people were adding personal events but marking them as private to their personal calendars and using Google, like their Google stuff, like a Gmail account, in order to organize. And Google was like, we can spy on things. And it seemed to be Google's interpretation of, if you're using any Google services, not just your employee Google services, we have a right to look at that. And the Labor Board looks like they're going to disagree.
Those people were not just creating calendars entries, they were creating unionization calendar entries.
That's not allowed.
Not fans
unacceptable.
Of that.
But see, you can't not allow that. You can't not allow that. But the end run that Google tried to do around that was to say they can't use company resources to do that. But that's not actually what happened, according to the U.S. Labor Board.
Now, if this plays out completely in favor of the individuals, Google might have to rehire them. How awkward would that be?
I think Google will probably just, give them $1 million and be like, good luck.
I would go on. I would see how far I could take it, because now you're basically invulnerable, right? I would be just like throwing trash all over the place, just go in the cafeteria, just start like just putting stuff on the floor, peeing in the sink.
Rue agrees with that. Yes.
Yeah. Rue's all about peeing in the sink.
Rue just threw a pillow down like, fuck the establishment. No, hang on. Rue, if you're not going to be good, come on.
Oh, you can't eject Rue. Chat.
She's going to have to bring her back with treats after the Labor Board ruling.
She's so clumsy.
She was also about to knock the lamp off the bedside table, so I was like, all right, we're done in here. You're going to go downstairs now.
The comment section is going to be furious with you, Kristen.
I'm sorry. She's distracting.
Now, if you'll think back to 1986, we were alive, but we were pretty young. The world saw that the personal computer was going to become a thing, and it was going to be big. And so the lawmakers got together and they said, we got to figure out what happens when you're trying to get into other people's computers. We see this could be a problem. And amazingly enough, that same law, this many years later, is still controlling how we interact with computer systems and what's a crime and what isn't. Until possibly now.
The Supreme Court will hear its first big computer fraud and abuse case. This is important because we see many cases where the prosecutor has vastly overreached, in my opinion, with this law. Aaron Schwartz, he was downloading publications that probably should have been free in the first place if you look at it on the whole, and then he was republishing them on the internet. But they brought the hammer down on him hard, and being a relatively meek nerd, he committed suicide as a result of that. So it's definitely, the punishment has to fit the crime, and in a lot of cases with the CFAA, it doesn't.
We got burned by the Washington Post again. The Washington Post has the worst paywall because they just funnel you back to their front page.
Yeah, I hate that.
Oh, well.
Oh, well. Enjoy whatever it was in the one tab.
I don't know why we lost there. But you miss the opportunity, or you miss an important point about that story, is it could get worse.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lobby who wants to lock it down and prevent these researchers from doing things.
The worst lobby is making the terms and conditions of the website somehow binding. Like, you agree not to do this, and it's like, oh, it's illegal. You agreed. It's like, that's not what that is.
The moment that the signature, the last stroke of that signature goes on to that, we all become criminals.
Yeah.
I mean, those of us who aren't already.
Well, I mean, the Google terms of service would, it's like, I'm misusing Google services, you criminal. Imagine using YouTube DL being criminalized.
Which, I mean, they wanted that, obviously.
Yeah.
We have another state that has chosen to put the stop to facial recognition. And like every other instance of this is a slightly different flavor. That's the bad thing about these, like the federal level, they're never going to do it. On the state level, yeah, maybe you get some progress, but they're all so different.
Massachusetts lawmakers vote to pass a statewide police ban on facial recognition. This is just police using the technology directly, and even in other places that have this ban, there have been cases where they haven't actually done that. And it also doesn't close the loophole on third-party services that do facial recognition.
You think the Palantir stock went up on that announcement?
Yeah.
Ventel?
Yeah.
Ventel's not facial recognition.
So we don't actually own our own police cars. We lease them from Palantir, and they're the ones that are doing the face and license plate recognition. And then when we want to know if what all faces were seen in this thing, we don't know. We don't maintain that. We just give Palantir $5,000, and then they tell us all the faces that they saw on that corner in a given day and time.
So not only is it unethical, it's also incredibly wasteful of tax dollars.
Yeah.
But Palantir makes so much.
It's so good for Palantir's shareholders. Yay.
That's what you call trickle-up economics. It's more of a vacuum.
It's really working out for us.
So we talked about, was it the week before last? The big reveal. Of course, this was years ago, decades ago that this happened. But the Swiss, the populace, they were thinking, yes, we're so neutral. We're so much better than the rest of the world because of our neutrality. What they didn't know is that with some of their corrupt government, and maybe all of it, we're really not sure, they were not being neutral at all. And it was a big story, and it was a big explosion, and now we find out that it was even bigger of a break of that neutrality than we originally thought.
Report claims CIA controlled second Swiss encryption firm. So this one went out of business 2 years ago, but it turns out the CIA were there all along. That company had sold cryptographic technologies, encrypted phones, encrypted fax machines, things like that, to many countries around the world, including some to Switzerland themselves, which their communications were not secure. Also, Swiss banks, their communication also not secure.
The phrase... You used a phrase there that I think is probably applicable far more than we realize, which is the CIA was there all along.
It's the CIA. It has been all along. Always has been.
Apple. I love this one.
Apple makes a lot. Remember the big troll?
Yeah, you could once you've downloaded the update, it's waterproof. Yeah,
but this is not that. Apple really did say that they'd increased water resistance to their iPhones, but no one told that to the engineering team who installed the watermark devices inside the iPhones, which void your warranty.
Apple fined $12 million for unfair claims about iPhone water resistance. So they said it's water resistant up to 4 meters for up to 30 minutes, but it turns out those were only at best in ideal underwater lab conditions. But you would think a phone that's waterproof, would not be excluded from warranty based on water claims. But no, there's still water indicators all over the device, so people would go to get their device repaired because it got water in it and something happened, and Apple would be like, no, you don't get it replaced. The water sensors in the old phones used to be set off by having your phone in the bathroom while you take a shower. Just really high humidity, and it's like, oh, no, there's water in your phone. That's how hideously evil Apple is. And I'm surprised that hasn't been a class action lawsuit.
I mean, 12 million. Come on.
Yeah. Well, that was only one EU member state. Other member states may also.
Yeah, they do mention
They're all
that
dogpile on.
if they got class action with all of those. But still, it's not going to be enough to...
Yeah. Apple, stop being terrible. That's all you got to do. Stop being terrible.
Also, the EU, they like to present this unified front. Like, we're all one, except the UK. They're not part of us anymore.
We don't talk about them.
But when it comes to how they do things, often the actions of the government doesn't reflect that, beautiful hand-in-hand reality. Or the reality doesn't reflect the hand-in-hand fantasy. And one of those things that will be obvious to you if you live in the EU is your streaming.
EU lawmakers push audiovisual sector on geo-blocking. So it turns out that if you've got a Netflix subscription and you travel, it doesn't work. So it'd be like us in the US. It's like, I've got Netflix. I'm going to go, visit some family that live in Texas. My Netflix subscription doesn't work there. It only works in my home state. That's kind of like how it is actually for Europe. It'll work, or it'll work a little bit, or it'll not work at all. So the EU is saying we can't have this. But a lot of the time, this is rights holders. It's it predates the European Union. That's just how it's always been. The grift for commercial technology. There's also a lot of economic variance because you think like Turkey. They're still in the EU, right? You got to think a Netflix subscription in Turkey costs a lot less than say Germany.
Well, they actually pointed that out. So, well, not Turkey, but so Germany. Germany's the example of lots of money. Germany gets, if you take all of the content of the EU Netflix into account, Germans can access 43% of it. Not bad. Probably everything in their language, and a little bit that's not. Greece, on the other hand, not as rich. Greece can access 1.3% of Netflix.
I think Greece is what I was thinking of, yeah. Yeah. Because, why? Because they can't afford it, the subscription variance, and it's like, no, we are one European Union.
Is this where we get corrected that Turkey's not in the EU?
Yeah.
It's in
probably.
NATO.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's what I was, yeah. I was trying to think of Greece. They've already yeah,
It's
angry.
too late, yeah. There's already 20 comments about it.
You idiot. Puerto Rico's not a state. I'm sorry. If you thought Puerto Rico was a state, I could forgive you.
Well, it's not a state.
I said if they thought that Puerto Rico was a state, I could forgive them.
Let me, so that'll be a bunch of garbage in the comments, but let me filter out that garbage and start a bunch of new garbage comments because we're going to talk about vaccination.
Oh, no.
Now, vaccines, we won't argue the efficacy of the vid vaccines or who's going to have them first or whether or not you should take them. What we want to talk about is the security around them. And it seems like some major players have already identified most of that supply chain and are very interested in it.
Mysterious phishing campaign targets organizations that are involved in the vaccine cold chain. The targets include EU directorates, companies making shipping containers, and a website development firm linked to the supply chains. Wow, they're starting to target the nerds that are involved. That's not very smart.
Yeah, so clearly... what do you think the game in here? You think this is ransomware?
I think it's probably ransomware and probably also intelligence services because intelligence services need to know like what the actual state is because you can't like all the media and the press secretaries, literally none of it's trustworthy.
That's true. Now, when you get hacked... I'm sorry, Krista.
I was going to say, didn't they say they had a bunch of the vaccine? I remember there was a story that were like, oh, it's at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. And I was like, that seems like a security risk to mention that you have a large amount of your stock at a certain airport.
I don't think they've chosen one yet, right?
I think some of it has already been distributed, and
Yeah.
it's going to the healthcare workers. The healthcare workers are the first ones to get it.
Aren't there multiple candidates at this point? Which one are they using?
I think
Both.
Pfizer.
I think both are out.
Pfizer was the one I saw about in Chicago.
A lot of these guys are prepping. They don't actually care which one wins. They're the refrigeration backbone
Yeah.
to distribute it because it has to be cold.
One of them has to be super cold, impossibly cold. We don't have the distribution infrastructure to handle it.
I think both of the ones that are like the leading contenders have to be super cold. Someone's going to correct me in that, but I think both Moderna and Pfizer.
Both of them do, but one of them has to be like colder than most. Like most hospitals just don't have a storage facility that operates at that temperature.
What if we used Ajit Pai and he could use his cold heart to keep our vaccines at the proper temperature?
Little known fact: his heart is actually a superconductor.
We've moved to security, in case you didn't notice. The FBI is often throwing out these little cybersecurity warnings. This one is it's kind of obvious, but maybe you don't think about this when you're thinking about your cybersecurity, and it's a good thing to think about.
FBI warns of email forwarding rules being abused in recent hacks. So your email gets compromised, you change your password, everything's all good, right? Wrong. Your email client, especially if it's a web client, could have a rule in it that says, hey, any message that comes in, forward it to this other external email. It's a pretty common tactic. And depending on what kind of hookup you have for your hosted email, IT people may not be able to see that that's happening. So like, for example, if you've got your corporate email hooked up to download into your Gmail and they hack your Gmail and they're forwarding out of your Gmail, your corporate people can't see the rules that you've created in Gmail for forwarding. And so you could be forwarding internal corporate emails to an external thing just depending on the mail client you're using. You could also have a local mail client like, say, Thunderbird. And you could have that rule set up and your IT people can't see that rule inside your local mail client.
You also could be sending two factors.
Yeah.
So they dark web you, they find your password. Oh, but it's two-factored. Oh, except they're already in your mailbox.
Yeah.
And
Even after you change your password, they're still in your mailbox.
if you didn't change your password, they go in and delete the email, so you never see it.
Yeah.
Dark times. Now we know at this point that phone apps are mostly malicious. Just you gotta live in terror.
Yeah.
You can't just go and install phone apps.
They literally bundle malware.
Browser extensions.
Also malware.
They're done. A couple of people will comment and they're like, you got to install these paywall blockers. And on one hand, I like you to be frustrated by the paywalls because you should hate them. But on the other hand, I don't trust those extensions.
I don't trust many
Yeah.
of them either.
Yeah. I mean, uBlock, it's got a decent pedigree, but these are just random ones you link to, we're not installing them. But perhaps the darkest timeline, a timeline that it can only be in 2020, is when the package managers fall.
Malicious NPM packages caught installing remote access Trojans. JavaScript and Node.js developers who installed the jdb.js and db-json.js packages were infected with the NJ-Rat malware. This is truly the darkest timeline.
Who can you trust?
Literally nobody.
Do you ever think, like, we'll look back on 2020 and it'll be like, that was the last good year? like this is just the beginning of the worst times.
They were quick to get on top of them. These were only there for approximately 100 installs, but that's 100 installs.
That's 100 installs.
And who knows what else is lurking on there.
Gosh, that always freaks me out too. When you npm install a bunch of stuff and then it's just your computer's just thrashing for several minutes. And it's like, what's it
Or
doing?
you install something and you're pretty confident about it. It's like, oh, this will also install, and there's like a big list, and you're, oh,
Yeah. Why?
That's what they got.
do I have to do another hour of research here?
That's weird. This strace shows that it's looking for wallet.dat. Huh. I wonder what that's about.
And when it comes to hacks for our phones, those are maybe our most vulnerable place is our phone at this point, I would say.
Yeah.
And when you hear about them, they come fast. You know, it's fast and furious. You get them every single week. But we really only like to talk about the most severe. Now, the good news is this was patched. I don't think anybody was ever affected. But, oh, boy.
Did you see the video on this?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
This is an amazing one.
The iPhone zero-click Wi-Fi exploit is one of the most breathtaking hacks ever. I would expect nothing less from Apple. So it turns out Apple has put AirDrop functionality in the kernel. So if there's a vulnerability in AirDrop, guess what? You can take over the kernel. So they've got a demo here where like they do something on a laptop and then there's a whole bunch of iPhones. You don't have to touch anything or do anything. And it immediately starts sending pictures and files on the iPhone devices back to the laptop. It's insane.
And it can worm because it's full control. And all you need is bad packets. So infected phone becomes spreading point for more infected phones.
Apple's better at security than they have been, but this just underscores that like clearly they don't have anybody internal doing any auditing.
Well, it goes back to last week when we talked about their internal firewall.
Yeah.
Their major problem is that they want to excuse themselves from the draconian security rules that they put on everybody else.
Yeah. Man, what a dumpster fire.
And let's say that you're like, oh, just miss me with those popular browsers. I only use terrible browsers, and that'll keep me safe, right? No.
Microsoft removes 18 malicious Edge extensions for injecting ads into web pages. Now you might be thinking, no, I don't use that horrible old Edge. I use the new Chromium-based Edge. No, this is what it is. That people like looked at popular extensions on Chromium and said, let's create fake versions of these extensions for people that have come here from Edge. And so, it's a double whammy of malware.
Ouch.
Do you know anybody who uses Edge?
I know
Other than for like testing?
I'm sure there's so many people who just buy new computers and use Edge.
I know a few people that have switched to Edge on Linux because Microsoft is offering Edge on Linux, and Edge on Linux, believe it or not, is less spyware-y than Chrome.
What a world.
Well, that's not surprising.
Oh, no, yeah, it doesn't surprise me about Chrome.
Yeah.
This webpage has had, I had to load 37 assets on this webpage. That's weird. Called the Google telemetry 481 times as I was loading it. That seems odd.
It's the old die young or live long enough to become Microsoft. Phrase we have to talk about here. Speaking of Microsoft, they are. We talked last week about their productivity score. If you missed that one, in Office 365. Office 365 is monitoring you at all times, obviously. And if you are in a corporate setting, then someone has a dashboard so they can go in and sort of look at your metrics, see what you're up to. Now, obviously, when people learned about this, they were furious because they're being spied on by a product that they're using. Hey, people don't like that. And so Microsoft has responded, I don't think they went far enough.
Yeah. Microsoft will remove usernames from productivity score feature after privacy backlash. So the little dashboard there is like, this person sent this many emails and did this other thing and did something else. And it's like, this is not good. Managers that don't know what they're doing are going to start to use this as a metric for things. And it's just, it's really
they
terrible.
do know
It was
what
in
they're
20 meetings, and so they're obviously productive, right?
People just schedule. It's like they're mentally keeping a tally. It's like, oh, I've only done 4 meetings this week. Better schedule a bunch. And Microsoft says, they're like, no. We're committed to privacy. And this was just, this was a feature we added. We didn't think about it being used that way. We would never do that. This is not something that Microsoft even thinks about ever.
Microsoft patents tech to score meetings using body language, facial expressions, and other data. Man, the sequel to Office Space, or the 2020 remake of Office Space, the dialogue here writes itself. It's like, hey, did you see Bob? He scored a 9.8 on his last meeting.
Is that out of 10 or 100?
Yeah.
Krista, you would get crucified by this.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I would.
because you'd be doodling and maybe doing some flapping or something. And
Yeah, I'd say I don't know how to hide my facial expressions either. Like, if something is distasteful to me, you can see it on my face. And I try to repress that, but I can't do it.
What do you think the effect on your score would be if you made somebody cry in a meeting?
Probably tank it.
The dashboard just starts blinking red. It's like, oh no, we've got a code 43 in the meeting.
Security arrives at the door.
It's like, look, I'm just trying to make a better product. Like, I think it's exciting that you have somebody that passionate that you're wanting to make the product that much better. But yeah, then it's just like, no, we must not upset the status
Oh,
quo.
it's all about feelings. Yeah.
And finally, the Tesla world. Boy, are they killing it this year. They are making a lot of money.
Going to talk more about that in business.
And people seem to be somewhat happy, except for Consumer Reports. But they did have a massive, massive security hole, although you had to work pretty hard to exploit it.
Yeah.
The good news is it's patched, and it's over-the-air patch, so you don't actually own that car. Don't worry. They fixed it for you.
Raspberry Pi used to hack Tesla Model X. So you were able to stand next to somebody and make a change or read their key fob or something with a Raspberry Pi.
The Bluetooth low energy could be updated. So you could poison the update, and it would accept any update.
But you still had to plug in something to the diagnostic port in order to pair the cloned key or something.
I don't know if you need to do that or not.
It was some sort of a convoluted process.
But yeah, it wasn't easy to do.
I'm pretty sure the PhD student is going to get their PhD for this, though, because they discovered something new and Tesla had to make changes to the global fleet everywhere.
Congratulations.
Neat. Dr. So-and-so, what's your PhD in? Hacking Teslas.
Key fobs. All right, that's all we got for today. And tomorrow we will look at business. And I don't remember I think it's going to be social media.
Wow. What a great week of news this will be.
You think so?
No, I mean, our content will always be fantastic every week. But the news stories will probably be depressing and sad.
But it's just our charismatic spin on the news that causes that, Kristen, not the news itself.
Right.
All right.
Right. Dab on them. Bye.
Give them that good. There you go.